Folks, we've been following this story right here and right along for the past couple of days, and this is new development on what transpired in court here in the case involving Mr. Treverson Roberts. And to give us some more legal thought, legal ideas into this, we have my good friend, Mr. Jerry Edwin. Jerry, welcome to the ride. Thank you so much for taking your time, Jerry. Please try to help me help me understand this, Jerry. We have a situation, this particular case, where this young man traveled from the United States into Grenada, commit a heinous crime. He's an American citizen, commit a heinous crime in Grenada, got a slap on the wrist or a kiss on the cheek, flew back to the United States, and was charged and could be charged and in prison for over 30 years for the same exact crime. Help us understand how this is possible and your initial reaction to it.
Yeah, when I first heard of this, my reaction was, my first reaction was, yes, justice was served in his home country of the United States. The U.S. has a statute, the Project Safe Childhood Act, Project Safe Childhood Act, which is a federal statute where any state citizen, a citizen of New York, Connecticut, Florida, Texas, who crosses any state border or crosses any border of the United States or goes anywhere in the world and commits a sexual offense against a minor can be prosecuted in the United States. It is a long arm jurisdiction of federal law. I mean, usually we talk about long arm jurisdiction having to do with serving persons papers. Here we talk about long arm in terms of its enforcement. This is a law that has a global reach, much like the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, another federal law that says if a U.S. businessman bribes a person in Papua New Guinea, that they could be prosecuted in New York or the federal district where their home business is located. So we see U.S. law as fiat, applicable anywhere in the world over U.S. citizens. It so happened that this person was also a citizen of Grenada. We should also, of course, know that U.S. dual citizenship is only activated in the case of criminal offenses, because the U.S. does not recognize dual citizenship in the ordinary sense.
Right.
So I have no difficulty with it. My philosophical difficulty with the law is that American law can reach into the judicial affairs of Grenada to apparently coerce Grenada's police into cooperating to convict a person who is a U.S. citizen. In this case, we have a person who is convicted in the lower court by the magistrate. The commissioner of police appeals. And without waiting for that appeal to be heard in the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court in St. Lucia, when that circuit court comes down to Grenada, the Royal Grenada Police Force then assists the FBI in enforcing that law. The same FBI that has a jurisdiction that does not extend outside the United States. It's pretty much federal law. We know that the CIA cannot operate inside the United States. The FBI cannot operate outside of the United States. I think that the Royal Grenada Police Force had no business assisting the FBI in prosecuting this person. That's my philosophical difference, because taken to its logical conclusion, the FBI now is able to operate outside the borders of the United States. And US citizens should be very concerned about this. This multi-jurisdictional cooperation between their FBI, their national police, as it were, and a foreign police department, when in fact, by statute and practice, the FBI is barred from doing anything outside of the United States.
But
But
let's zoom back a little bit. This situation right here, Jerry, where we have this particular individual who went to the court in Grenada, treated what a lot of people would say treated with a high level of leniency. The charges that he got, far, I mean, it's worse than if someone stole a coconut in Telescope. It's much less. He was charged $1,500 and $600 fine for molestation. How is it possible that a judge would make a decision? Where is the bottleneck? Where is the problem here?
A judicial officer, whether in downtown Brooklyn, downtown Manhattan, or even at the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C., in Grenville, the town of Grenville, they're all bound by the same rules. A judge cannot look behind the charges brought by the prosecutor and then decide to sentence. The judge's hands are tied. Her hands are tied based on the evidence that is presented to her by the police.
But the evidence that was presented to us is that we had Treverson admitting in a WhatsApp message that he actually did commit the crime. So was that evidence presented in court? And if not, why was it not presented in court?
The WhatsApp messages were never in evidence before the court. We, the people who were outside, were given a version of the facts that in fact that version was never presented to the magistrate. We were told that O.J. Simpson had blood on his glove and that O.J. Simpson killed Nicole and her housemate, her visitor, her friend, in the court of law. In the court of law. Another bit of evidence is presented. So, I had a client, I had a client who was presented to the people of Grenada in handcuffs, accused of a crime of stealing $65,000 just last week. He was sent to jail for a week and a half until he got bail. The newspaper story said that he took money from a bank account from his business partner, that he stole goods from his business partner, and then sold those goods and took that money for himself. In the court of law, not one of those things were in fact true. So what we sometimes hear outside of the court is never what happens inside. The magistrates, and in this particular case, I can assure you, this magistrate does not play when it comes to sexual offenses. In fact, none of them do. I had a client last week, 20-year-old boy, first time he had sex with a girl who was young, under 16, at 20 years old. 11 years in jail. I disagree with that sentence. I'm running, begging and crying to the Court of Appeal. We have all the laws in Grenada which are used every single day, just this morning when I was at court, to prosecute persons who commit sexual offenses. But a magistrate does not know more than the evidence she's presented with.
So the problem is the police investigator, the person who wrote up the charges. Why would that information not be presented properly? Why would that police investigator not take down or present the accurate information as provided to them? And do you know if that information was provided? Because we spoke to the mother extensively.
Yeah.
She shared with us all the information that she said that she presented to court,
Yeah.
to the police. The young man pled guilty on the charges here in Grenada. Why would the police investigator not present that in
Knows?
evidence?
Who knows what lurks in the hearts and mind of the incompetent police officer? The fact is that this should not even have been a summary offense, as we know now. The magistrate did not know that. What was presented to her was, and I find myself in the unenviable position of defending the magistrate when I'm always on the other side attacking their sentences. But the magistrate was presented with evidence of a summary offense. Ordinarily, this should have been an indictable offense making its way up to the High Court,
Right.
where the High Court judge would have thrown the jail on top of this young man.
Yes.
But the magistrate did not know. This was not the evidence she had. So maybe as a fix, we have to train our police officers better. Look, the truth is, we have an epidemic on our hand, as does the United States. If one wants to see sexual offenses gone amok, it is the United States who passes these laws to protect children, because they know Americans travel all around the world and commit the most heinous set of sexual offenses against defenseless children, particularly in the developing world. So this law, the safe, I think it's Project Safety, something child, I forgot the exact wording, is a federal statute to track Americans wherever they go. Notwithstanding that, our magistrate, she's not bound by American law. She only is bound by what the police present to her. And they presented evidence that is really, I think, very, very, very troubling in the circumstances. And many lawyers here have wrung their hands when we heard about this case. But we could sympathize with the judicial officer, because we know when these cases come to her, how she deals with them in the fullness of the evidence. But that's not what happened here.
Yeah. Guys, we're talking here with Jerry Edwin, and let me just give you a big behind the scenes programming note. I know it's being broadcast right now. It's streamed live right now, but it was not supposed to be streamed live. So Jerry, we are actually live, and we could say hi to people in real time, but it was not supposed to be streamed live. Yeah. So for those of you watching this live, so Jerry, we heard and seen that there was some cooperation between the RGPF and the FBI or the justice system in the US. In fact, the statement read here from the Justice Department states that, so I could pull it up, it said that the HSI New York Child Exploration Investigators Unit investigated the case with valuable assistance provided by the HSI Caribbean Attaché Office and the Royal Grenada Police Force. Now we knew that the Royal Grenada Police Force, the Commissioner of Police, did in fact file an appeal. Is that the regular channel in terms of how the appeal should go in any case that relates to American citizens?
Yes, but in this this was a summary offense in Grenada, the way the police presented the evidence and charged it, right? They charged it as a summary offense, not an indictable offense. But we would, sitting back now and knowing what we do know, and we don't need the Americans to tell us this, because long before the FBI became involved, we realized that a travesty had occurred, because the mother appeared and described what happened. Unfortunately, the police never presented the case rightly, as it should have been an indictable offense. But if the police were displeased, and the police, of course, is the prosecutor and is the claimant, in this case, in the criminal case. The police clearly go the route of appealing to the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. And I'm sure that the police, in presenting that case, likely would have failed. Because the police, they cut their legs out from under them. The magistrate was not wrong. The police presented an insufficient case they presented a summary case. So they took the out by saying to the FBI, you have a law that tracks your citizens anywhere in the globe, on planet Earth. And when they commit sexual offenses, you have a federal law that can prosecute them. Here is a good law for you. Please go after this person. I have a philosophical problem with that. I think, and again, the overreach of the FBI, a domestic police force, I should add, to come into the jurisdiction of a sovereign country to enforce U.S. law.
Well, I'm doubtful if they just took it on their own accord and came in, because had this not been publicized and widely talked about, they probably would have never found out about it. Let's bring in Dennison George, who is affiliated with Caribbean Women Inc. Dennison, could you hear me? Dennison, could you hear me? All right, Dennison, could you hear me?
I'm hearing you, Junior, but it's coming in broken up.
Okay, I'm not sure why you're not hearing me properly. So I'll come back.
I'm hearing you.
I didn't stand by. We'll come back to you. So as far as what we heard is that there was some kind of coordination. The U.S. Justice Department didn't take it up on their own and move forward with this particular case right now. So people are saying, is it a case of double jeopardy, where he probably would have been tried already and then the U.S. take it up and try it again? Is that the case here?
No, he was tried under Grenadian law. The federal statute was brought to bear on this defendant only once, and it makes sense. I mean, any U.S. citizen who would have known about this case and knowing that this person never faced the sanction of the federal law could certainly have simply picked up the phone or written a letter or sent an email of the conviction to the Eastern, wherever he lives. If he lived in Kings County, that's the Eastern District Federal Court, federal attorney's office, the criminal division. And that criminal division would have then looked into the matter and brought the law to bear on this defendant who is a U.S. citizen. If he were not a U.S. citizen, let's remember, if he were just a resident, I doubt whether the law would have been able to prosecute him. I stand to be corrected. But I think it's because he is a citizen of the United States that the law was brought to bear on him.
Yeah. So if he pled guilty in the U.S. court, would he serve time in U.S. court? Or will he be connected to Grenada?
Oh, no. I mean, the Grenada court have passed. When I mean, they have ruled based on the paucity of the evidence, the magistrate sentenced him. Because if the magistrate knew then what she knows now, of course, this person would never have been facing American law because he would be at Richmond Hill serving a long-term sentence. But as it stands now, he is facing American law. He's facing American law because
What about the appeal by the Commissioner of Police?
Well, they would have to, the prosecution office of the Royal Grenada Police Force are probably the better people to answer that. But what would they appeal? That the evidence they presented, the paucity of evidence they presented, the magistrate should have dealt with it differently? all the, I find it, and who are they appealing? What are they appealing? What would they appeal? Because the lawyer from the other side would say, here is the evidence. The lawyer for the convicted man in Grenada would say, here is the evidence. And then he would pull up the statute. And as lawyers in all common law jurisdictions all over the world, he would say, under the principle of stare decisis, which means in a simple word, precedent, he would say, look at what the penalty of a person who faced a summary offense would normally get.
Right. And you know, the funny thing about this, Jerry, we've seen a case quite similar to this, where the mother, I think she's on the live right now watching, where she presented a incident to the police where the child accused a particular individual of molesting her about 18 times. And the police, however, wrote up only one single charge. And that one single charge is what made its way to the judge. And of course, he was found not guilty on that single charge and he got off. So the problem here, as you're saying, is better education in terms of getting that information and presenting that information from the police perspective, from the police point of view, before you even get to the in front of the judge. That is the problem. That is the bottleneck that you're saying. That's the problem.
I tell you. I don't know if I said it before, but Antigua has a special court. You see, like we have traffic courts.
Yeah.
They have a court dealing only with sexual offenses. Trinidad saw the wisdom in it, and I think it was 2 months ago, Trinidad started a court dedicated only for that. And as I said, Kings County in Brooklyn has a court dedicated for domestic violence because that's an epidemic in the state of New York. We are saying that in Grenada, that these cases are just too many. Just yesterday, our chief magistrate, the Honorable Teddy St. Louis, was saying that we desperately need a special court just to deal with sexual offenses, where we will have trained police officers, trained social workers, and of course, a judicial officer whose remit is only to deal with these matters, so that it's a special jurisdiction court staffed by expert social workers, SVU officers, and of course, police officers who can charge. Because it's a serious problem, not just in Grenada, by the way, globally. That's why the United States passed this law, because US citizens were going all over the world and abusing infants. And it's a real problem. It's a real problem. So I don't want anybody to take away that somehow Grenada has this special problem. This is a global problem, and the American lawmakers in the Congress decided that we have to follow our citizens to keep the world safe from American sexual predators. Good for them, I say.
Yeah. Jerry, where do we go from here with this case? Do you think that Roberts would get a maximum 30-year sentence? What are your thoughts?
I can't say. I don't know how old this law is, but I do know that the evidence against him now, because the mother, I'm sure, will be called to give evidence in this case, to say what happened to her child. So this is a fresh new matter. It's a fresh new matter because I do not think that the American authorities, the officers in the criminal division of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Kings County, can rely on the conviction in Grenada. Because if they do, then with a good lawyer in America, this young man would never face anything close to the 30-year sanction. Because remember the limited amount of evidence that was presented here in Grenada. So I think this is a matter that I certainly hope that, and this is not to excuse the offense, it's a horrific offense, but everyone is entitled to either plead guilty, fall on the mercy of the court, or get yourself a good lawyer. And I would advise this person to do one or the other, because I think the evidence is compelling against him.
All right. Thank you, Jerry, for that information as it relates to this case. Guys, we've been following this case, and I brought you guys up to speed on it yesterday. It's a case that we have been following from since 2019, October 17th, when the mother initially brought that story to us. She presented that case, and shortly after that, the RGPF, the Commissioner of Police, filed an appeal. But Mr. Roberts is a dual citizen of the U.S. and Grenada. He flew back into the U.S. and yesterday we got the news that he was he pled guilty and could face up to 30 years in prison. So we're going to keep you guys updated on this. This is not the end of it. It goes into sentencing after this point, and we'll let you guys know how it goes. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of it. Keep looking at Ridealong, because we have an interview with Dennis and George shortly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching.